We're just doing the second one. Okay, I don't want to... I want to do 24 through 29 because we've spent a ton of time already going through how to do the quadratic formula. So if you have individual questions on those, you can see me. I don't mind starting at number 30 because it's exciting. It says you can use any method you'd like.
Number 30.
What's that, Oscar? Let's try again. All right, so this one says that we can do this any way that we would like. Okay? Now, we have 3 different ways of solving quadratic equations. One of them that we haven't spent a lot of time on in terms of solving them is graphing them. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that nobody in here wants to solve this by graphing. Okay? So that really leaves us 2 good choices. One is factoring and one is using the quadratic formula. And what I'm going to say is anytime you have a number in front like this, that makes that factoring real complicated. Because remember, that's where you have to multiply this number times this number and then do the whole add up to and break it down and all that kind of stuff. So probably the best bet here is just to go with the quadratic formula and see what happens. Okay? You can try and do it by factoring if you want, and hopefully you'll get the same answer that we're about to, but I'm going to go with this method. So, opposite of b?
3.
3. Plus or minus square root of b squared. Squared, not times 2. 9. Minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is negative 15. All over, the whole thing over 2 times a, which is 10. Okay? Did I do anything crazy or really confusing or weird? Okay. So now I just need to simplify the square root. So what is 9 minus 4 times 5 times negative 15? And here is where the fact that you all have these nice little calculators now that you downloaded or whatever is super awesome because you don't have to think about this. You can just type that into the calculator the way it is, and you should come up with the right answer. Give me a second. All right, so I am going to go.
If it ever came up.
Come on, baby. Really?
Frozen.
Oh, maybe.
Reboot.
All right, so I'm going to just take the thing inside the square root and enter it right into my calculator. And if you want to save a step and do the square root thing at the same time, is that how you want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. No? No. We'll go step by step. That's fine. So I'm going to go 9 minus 4 times 5 times negative 15. So 9 minus 4 times, was it 5? 5
times negative 15.
Negative 15. And so underneath the square root, I get 309.
Yep.
Okay, and so one of the things that's different about these problems than the ones that we have been working on before is when I find the square root of 309, what do you notice? Yeah, it's a weird, crazy decimal. And so Oscar asked, what do we do with the rounding? And so what I'm going to tell you is when you go square root of 309 and you get 17.578395, blah, 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 let's go 2 decimals. Okay?
I put 1.
So let's go 17.58 is our answer to the square root of 309. And that's all divided by 10. Okay? So 3 plus 17.58 is going to be 20.58 divided by 10. 3 minus 17.58 is going to be negative 14.58 divided by 10. And then when you divide by 10, we don't even need a calculator for that. What does that do to the decimal place? Moves it over 1. I'm sorry, Brianna, I forgot to write bigger. So this is going to be, and I'm still going to stay with 2 decimals, so this is going to be 2.06 and 1.46 as my 2 answers. And the fact that we got those funky decimals tells me that, guess what?
What?
We could not have factored it. It would not have factored.
I only did the 1 decimal, so is that okay? I got
That's okay.
2.05 and 1.45.
That's okay. All right, so let's try 31.
I got one.
Okay, to do 31, there's something that we have to do first. What is it? Add 12 to both sides. Good. This has to be equal to 0. Okay, and then you could go from there. But there's a fun little trick that we can do in this problem that will make things a little bit easier. Does anybody notice anything about the numbers 9, 6, and 12? They're all factors of 3. So I'm going to divide this by 3, I'm going to divide this by 3, I'm going to divide this by 3, and I'm going to divide that by 3. And as long as I divide every single term by the same thing, I'm okay. So 9y squared divided by 3 is 3y squared. 6y divided by 3 is 2y. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. And the nice thing about doing that is 0 divided by 3 is, guess what? Still 0. So that's pretty easy. So would you like to graph, factor, or quadratic formula? Quadratic formula, okay. So in this one, A is 3, B is 2, and C is 4. So to solve this, I need to go the opposite of B, which is -2 plus or minus the square root of.
Wait, what number is this? 31?
Plus or minus the square root of. I'm waiting for somebody to let
36.
know. B squared is 4 minus 4
Wait, why'd you divide by
times
3?
3 times 4, right? Right?
Wait, I have a question.
Okay, all divided by 2a, which would be 6. Yes,
Why'd you divide it by 3?
just to make things easier.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you don't have to do it that way, but it's nice. Okay, so now let's again do the stuff underneath the square root first. So you can go 4 minus 4 times 3 times 4. 4 minus 3, no, minus 4 times 3 times 4. Okay, and something crazy happens. Right, I come up with a negative number, and when I try to take the square root of that negative number, it gives me an error. Oh no, it didn't.
Yeah, I did it, but the I at the end.
Hold on. My calculator's cheating.
Because you have the other smart glasses.
I have the other side. Okay, let's try that again. I take the square root and it goes error, non-real answer. Okay, and I have two choices. I can either quit or I can go to where the error was made. But I'm just going to quit because I know what's the problem.
You can't square
You
root
can't
a
take the
negative
square root
number.
of a negative number. And so as soon as we get a negative number underneath the square root, what's the answer?
Nothing.
No solution. What?
I have airport water.
You got it to be positive? Oh, okay. Okay, so as soon as you get a negative underneath the square root, then you should be really excited about that because then you're done.
Nice.
Okay?
I got a lot of
Then
those.
you're done. No solution. All right, 32.
Oh.
I really want to listen to that song.
Anybody have any great ideas on how to start this?
Factoring. The factoring.
I could factor it, but there's an even easier way. I divide by 4 because 4 goes into both of those numbers evenly. So just like in the last problem, that's something to start looking for. And then if I have a squared equals 9, then I'm done. Because I already know what a is. What is it? 3 or negative 3. Okay? Because 3 times 3 is 9, and negative 3 times negative 3 is also 9. Okay? So that was an easy one. You could have factored it. You could have done the quadratic formula. You would have come up with the same answer if you'd done it correctly, but this is just a little bit easier way to do it. Okay? So let's take a look at 33 and keep what just happened in mind. What do you notice is true about 6 and 96?
I have 6 in it.
Of 3, but you can do better than that.
9.
6, 2 also, but since it's 2 and 3, that means it's also 6. Okay, so I'm going to divide both of those by 6. So t squared equals, t squared minus 16 equals 0. Okay, so again, you could factor this if you wanted to. What would this factor into? I would need two numbers that multiply together to make negative 16 and add together give me what? 0. So I need negative 4 and plus 4. So what are my two answers?
Negative 4 and 4.
Negative 4 and 4 because I have to make them both opposite. Okay? The other thing you could have done when you got right here is what? Anybody know? Is there a way that you can make this problem look like this problem? But what I have to do before I square root it? Yeah, add 16 to both sides and then take the square root, and then you would also get negative 4 and 4. So lots of different ways to get the same answer. All right, so just like in the other ones, before I start in on this, what do I have to do? Add 10 to both sides. Okay, and then you could go quadratic formula, but that's kind of complicated. And so anytime I've got something here and there's no number in front, I'm going to try to factor it. So when I try to factor this, I get a z and a z. Then I need two numbers, Nate, that multiply together to be 10 and add to be 7. What you got?
5 and 2.
5 and 2. And so factoring works. And so since z plus 5 could equal 0, that means z equals
Negative 5 and
negative 5. And since z plus 2 could also equal 0, that means z could equal negative 2.
I like the
So
quadratic.
don't blindly just go with the quadratic. You like that? Okay.
Factoring's harder.
Okay, so now let's take a look at number 35. What do you notice we've got going on with 35? It's a negative. So what do you want to do with that? Does anybody have, does anybody have a way that you can get rid of the negative in front of that g squared?
And multiply it by
Multiply it by what?
negative 1.
Negative 1. So
Or
if I'm going to
negative
take and multiply this by negative 1, what do I have to multiply this by? Negative 1. What do you have to multiply that by? And what do you have to multiply that by? Okay, so negative 1 times negative g squared makes a positive g squared.
Negative 4g.
That's going to change that to be
Negative
negative 4g, negative 3, and 0. So I'm going to try to factor this. What two numbers multiply together to give me negative 3 and add to give me negative 4? But that's going to multiply together to give me negative 4. I want to multiply together to make negative 3.
1.
You're close. Negative, nope, you guys are, because negative 4 times 1 is not negative 3. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. But negative 3 and 1 don't.
I don't know, just give us the answer.
So can we, but negative 4 times 1 is not negative 3? So can we do it? No. This one can't factor, so that means we need to use the quadratic formula.
That's just the easiest.
Okay? So I have to do the opposite of b. What's the opposite of b? 4. Plus or minus the square root of what's
16.
b squared? Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16 minus 4
Negative 4.
times
1
a
and 3.
times c all
16
over
plus
2
12.
times a. Okay? So underneath the square root, if you do that on your calculator or you do it in your head,
16 plus
16 plus 12 is 28.
Square root of 28 is something.
Okay, what's the square root of 28?
It's
What?
a decimal.
5.29? And that's divided by 2. Okay, so if I go 4 plus 5.29, that gives me 9.29. If I go 4 minus 5.29, that gives me negative 1.29, and both of those are still divided by 2. What's 9.29 divided by 2? 4.65 if I round it. And negative 1.29 divided by 2 is 0.65 if I round it. Okay? So again, do you see why our original one couldn't factor? Because of good, Chase nodding his head, just pretend to pay attention, I like that. Yeah, when you get decimal answers like that, that's why it wouldn't factor, okay? All right, so again, I don't want to do 36 through 41 because it just says use the quadratic formula. We know how to do that. Let's do the word problems and then...
oh, we actually had to do the last word problem? I didn't do it.
Okay, well, we'll do it right here in a second.
On the last one either.
Are you going to let us work on these in class?
Let's see where we're at when we're done with these two. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I know it's hard when I've been gone. All right, 42 says, 42 says the weekly profit of a company is modeled by the function W equals blah, blah, blah. If the break-even point is when W equals 0. So what do I do with the 0? Where does the 0 go? Yeah, it goes in for the W. So I'm going to rewrite this as 0 equals all this stuff. And then I'm going to try to solve this. But just like we did in the other problem, I don't like the negative right here with my squared. So I'm going to multiply everything by -1, which changes the sign on all of these terms. Okay, so I'm going to try to factor this. We're going to have to go to Nate the Great here for this one. I need two numbers that multiply together to be 28 and add to be -120. That doesn't look good for us, does it? No, it's not going to happen. All right, so we've got to go quadratic formula here. So A is 1, B is -120, and C is 28. So I'm going to start by going the opposite of B. What's the opposite of -120?
120.
120. Plus or minus the square root of, what's 120 squared? Girls.
14,440.
Why we always have to have this discussion. 14,400, thank you. Minus 4 times A times C. And that's all going to be over 2 times A, which is 2. Okay, so somebody all okay, 14,288. I like it. What's the square root of that? Say again. 119.53. Thank you. And that's still divided by 2. So now if I go 120 plus that, I get 239.53 divided by 2. If I go 120 minus that, I get -0.47 divided by 2. But this problem is asking us to figure out how many things we should produce, right? Are we ever going to make a negative amount of things?
No.
Nope. So this negative answer I can throw away. So then I really want to know just what 239.53 divided by 2 is. And that,
Wait, where'd you get that?
What? 0.6? 119.7. Okay. So how many do I want to make? Because I also can't make the 0.7 one. About 120. So if I make 120 gizmos, I believe it was, then they'll be at about the break-even point. All right? Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, and then 43.
Oh, we have to do
it says describe 3 different methods to solve this problem. So we talked about those at the beginning of the class. What's one of the ways you can solve it? What? Quadratic formula. I'll tell you in just a second. What's another way that you can solve it? Factoring. And then what's the other way that we really haven't used? Graphing. Which one do you want to do? You want to go quadratic formula? Okay, you go ahead. All right, let's go graphing. X squared minus x minus 56.
Let's spice it up.
No, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. If only you had a fun, fancy calculator like this. What was it? X squared.
X squared minus x minus 56 equals 0.
Okay, so when I'm graphing these, if I'm going to solve by graphing, what I'm looking for is where does the graph cross the x-axis. And so my fancy dancy calculator makes the graph for me. And then all I have to do is count over to here where it's crossing, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So one of my answers is -7. And then the other one is going to be where it crosses over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my other answer is going to be 8. Okay? Which you would have also gotten by factoring. Because if I factor this and I need 2 numbers to multiply to be -56 and add the -1, it's going to be -8 and +7. So that's where the 8 comes from, and that's where the -7 comes from. And then hopefully if you did the quadratic formula right, you would get the same answer as well. All right?
Okay.